Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Tuesday morning the 24th of June, and in this video I want to go through this interview that CBC News Nova Scotia had with someone from Nova Scotia RCMP, of course, talking about the disappearance of missing siblings, 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan from Lansdowne Station in Pictou County. Some people have asked me whether I've seen this interview. I have, and I'm going to comment on it. It's in like 6.5 minutes, so we're going to go through the whole thing. It's not new though, even though it was only posted 14 hours ago as I record this. This interview was done when CBC did the rest of the interviews that they've been putting out over the last few days. I know this because there was a clip to him talking, a very small clip, in one of CBC's previous videos. So this is not new. The release of this longer interview is new, but the interview itself isn't new. CBC, for whatever reason, have held this back. Like over the last few days, they've released the What Do We Know So Far video. They've released Grandma's video, Cody's mother. They've released Daniel's video, the stepfather. They've released Amy Hansen's video, the search coordinator stroke manager. I have covered all of those interviews in previous videos, so go and check those out. I do have quite an extensive playlist now on the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan, so if you're brand new to this channel and you just found me through one of these videos, please go and check out the playlist, and also please go and subscribe if you've not done so already. It's completely free. All you have to do is click on the subscribe button like this, boom, that's it. Trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So I've got 6 months left. I think I can do it if you can help me out. So if you watch my videos, and I do know, I can tell from the back end of YouTube, the majority of people who watch my videos never subscribe. So please do. All right, so without further ado, let's get into this interview.
To be clear, we don't have evidence to suggest that an abduction took place at this time.
Is it something you're still investigating, whether or not they could have been abducted?
So we're exploring all investigative avenues.
Exploring all investigative avenues kind of makes me feel like they don't really know what happened. Now, there has been some rumblings in my comment section that the parents have been re-interviewed. Daniel and Malia have been re-interviewed. There's no way I can tell for sure that they have, but given the stuff that's been coming out over the last few days, you know, from Durwood stroke Darren, the cousin of Malia's grandma, so he is Malia's first cousin twice removed, and the stuff that Daniel's been saying in people's chats, then, of course, RCMP are going to be monitoring social media. Of course they do. They always do in these cases. And they're going to know what's being said. So, of course, they're going to go back to the parents and interview them again. So, even though I can't tell for sure that that's happened, I suspect it has.
So on the morning of May 2nd, approximately 10 a.m., RCMP officers received a call about 2 missing children in Lansdowne Station. The information at the time was that they wandered off away from the property, and I can tell you that our officers got at the scene very quickly, and we were monitoring the situation and hopefully finding the children very soon after that.
So it's very quickly. Officers arrive, and then what? You expected, it sounds like you're saying, that you'd find the children quickly, or hoped you would anyways. That didn't happen.
So, Kayla, what I can tell you, from experience, you look at missing children. I've been involved with a handful of cases since I've been with Strategic Communications. Most oftentimes, the children are located very quickly after officers arrive at the scene, right?
Yeah, that is absolutely true, regardless of where you are in the world. The majority of people who are reported missing, children and adults, are located safely. Given that they live very close to dense woodland, the cops take one look at that scene and think, well, yeah, they've wandered off. especially as, you know, there's a cabin right there that they play in at the edge of the woods. There's a little fort thing that they play in. So, yes, absolutely, they would have thought, we're going to locate these kids very soon, like within a couple of hours.
And that's our hope every single time, that they wandered off and you can find the children. Because I'm sure, you know, like every officer out there, I'm not on the road currently, but your heart is pounding, the adrenaline is rushing, you're trying to find those children, right?
And this case started just like that?
That's
what you're
correct.
Describing, you thought you'd go there, find them very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And our officers were nearby in an ongoing search for a kayaker that had gone missing the day prior. So, you know, and I can tell you I was monitoring the situation remotely. And our officers, I could tell they were getting there as quickly as possible.
There are some, as you are aware, many theories out there. Some people think, well, maybe it's really just a tragic accident. Maybe they just wandered off into the woods. But you've said that it's suspicious. So at the very least, why does the RCMP view this case as suspicious?
So every missing person's investigation is suspicious until it's proven that it's not.
That's something quite unique to Canada. I cover a lot of cases in the US. I cover a lot of cases here in the UK, and when it's a missing person and there's no immediate evidence of a crime, they don't use the words suspicious. But they seem to, in Canada, the Major Crimes Unit, get involved in missing persons cases if that person isn't found within the first few hours, which I guess it's the same everywhere. I always characterise searching for missing people as two avenues. They start off at the same time. So you've got the acute search, where you've got officers on the ground, you've got search teams that are called, you've got dog teams, you've got the helicopters, you've got drone activity, you've got all of those things thrown at the place where they're most likely to be for the first few days. That's the acute search. But then on the opposite side, you've got the investigation, and that starts, or at least it should start, immediately. So the investigation involves interviewing people who were there. So in Lilly and Jack's case, it will be Malia and Daniel initially, and Daniel's mother, she lives on the property as well. So those initial interviews will be done very, very quickly to get a feel for what happened. But they'll also have officers who'll stay with those people to gauge their reaction. Yes, they're there to support and so on and so forth, but they're also investigators. Other things that are done, or at least should be done very quickly these days, is gathering stuff like surveillance video, whether it's CCTV, whether it's people's Ring doorbells, trail cameras, appealing for dash cam footage. Those things should be started straight away. So surveillance cameras at the nearest properties. Now, in Lilly and Jack's case, there's very few properties in that area, which is why I think it was a total misstep that RCMP waited so long to ask the public for dashcam footage. That should have been done within the first couple of days. As much surveillance footage as can be collected needs to be done as soon as possible, because lots of surveillance systems write over themselves automatically after, a set number of days. Some people delete their footage, so it needs to be done as soon as possible. So waiting until the end of May, when Lilly and Jack went missing on the 2nd, is a real misstep for collecting things like dashcam footage, which is very important in an area where there's not a lot of surveillance cameras. It's not like a residential street where a number of people might have Ring doorbells that could have captured something, or other surveillance systems that could have captured something. We do know from an interview with Melissa Scott, who is a neighbour, that on the 20th of May, officers went to her and asked for her trail cameras. She owns about 40 acres, but it's like 3 miles away. So they've gone quite far out looking for trail cam footage and presumably other surveillance footage. But again, it's a long time. 20th is a long time away. So I think that is a massive misstep. It is.
If we don't have that information to say that it's not suspicious, we have to continue to assume that it is suspicious and access those resources and tools and follow up those tips and find that evidence until we find the people that are missing.
So you don't think they were abducted, but you can't find them. How do 2 young children just vanish?
That's a great question, Kayla. And we are asking for the public for tips and information. And to date, we've received close to 500 tips. So we have to follow up on those tips, right? Whether it's a tip that indicates that there could be something that happened elsewhere in the province, elsewhere in the country, we have to follow up on those investigative tips to rule them out. And to this date, we haven't had any come from sightings.
But there have been tips that lead you to other parts of the country that you had to check.
As with any investigation, oftentimes we do get tips that you have to verify that are elsewhere, yes.
Some people, you know, living miles and miles and miles away might see two kids who look like Lilly and Jack. So that's good. Like, you know that the message is getting out. It is possible, if a child or children are abducted, that they're taken far away. So it's good. Shows that the case has had a wide reach.
Said that the children were last seen alive the day before. Can you tell me about the nature of that?
So we know they were seen in public with loved ones the day prior. The specifics aren't being released at this time.
Okay.
We know the specifics from Daniel. I don't know why they're being cagey about this. According to Daniel, they were last seen in New Glasgow with Malia and Daniel and Baby Meadow. They were all there near the Highland Mall. I can't remember the name of it. Highland something Mall. So they were out doing some shopping. I don't know why that's a secret.
And so that's the day before, so that's May 1st. But you've specifically asked for video back to April 28th. What's the reason for that?
You know, when you establish a timeline for any investigation, you want to know where these individuals were prior. They may have been in contact with someone. That you want to know who that person is.
You want to know where the individuals were, what they were doing. What individuals? See, this interviewer, I would have said, which individuals? Which individuals are you talking about? Because it's obvious that if they want from April 28th, and Melissa Scott, the neighbour, was asked for footage back to, I think that was April 29th, well, they want footage from Gairloch Road, April 28th, when they know absolutely that the children were alive on May the 1st. Well, they're doing surveillance, aren't they? They're looking at what vehicles pass by, looking if anybody kept driving by and stopping, and you know they're going to track all of those vehicles. But that's very interesting wording, very interesting. This leads me to believe that parents are under suspicion. They are. They're surveilling them.
You may see something on that footage that you didn't know about prior to that. You know, we talked about license plates earlier and seeing them from a different angle. You might see someone that's known elsewhere. Maybe it's someone that's known to police. You never know. We really are seeking all investigative avenues in this case.
So they are considering the possibility of abduction and foul play. Of course they are.
There have been some complaints that an Amber Alert was not issued. I understand that the criteria is very specific. Was that considered? Is it still possible?
Absolutely, Kayla. You know, on the day of the incident, I can tell you I was working. I reviewed the policy that morning. We have to have a suspect or a person of interest when it comes to an abduction or a vehicle. You know, in terms of sending out an alert, when you send an Amber Alert, you want to direct the public to look for a specific vehicle, to look for that license plate, to look for that suspicious person, to have a photo of someone or more information to suggest that there was an abduction. In this case, you know, they are young children, certainly vulnerable people, and a vulnerable person alert was issued.
Does the RCMP know what happened here? Even if you can't tell me, do you know?
So what I can tell you is that we're exploring all investigative avenues.
We're exploring all avenues, so they don't know.
Do you have a case? Are you building a specific case that's leading you in a certain direction?
In this case, the investigation is still being investigated under the Missing Persons Act.
Okay, so investigated under the Missing Persons Act. So they're not saying we're investigating this as a homicide or we're investigating this as an abduction. But as they're exploring every avenue, they don't know. That's the take home.
It sort of seems from the last news release that you issued. The reason I'm asking these questions. I read that news release and I thought, I don't think they have any idea what happened here.
You know, when it comes to missing people, it's very complex. It can be very long-term investigations. It can be difficult on first responders, especially when it involves vulnerable people. And we have to be patient. And we have to follow the leads and follow the facts and evidence that we gather to bring us to locating the children.
Does the RCMP think Lilly and Jack could still be alive?
That's a great question, and we want to locate them and find them. And our goal is to investigate every single avenue until we find them.
Is it
Well, that didn't answer the question at all.
possible at this point?
That's a great question, and our role is to find them in the evidence surrounding their disappearance.
You mentioned a lot of the tips you're getting. I'm sure you're aware there's extraordinary public interest in this case. Some people are frustrated that the RCMP is not saying more. We understand it's an active investigation. And in some cases, the lack of information leads to speculation, and rumors are rampant online, and that's done some harm on the family.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. I agree with that. When police services are really tight-lipped, it does nothing whatsoever to allay the public's fears and to quell any speculation. Rumours are rampant, but honestly, it could well be that some of the information that are rumours now turn out to be true. And I understand that they can't say very much because it is an active investigation, but they do need to be mindful that giving the public information that isn't going to harm the investigation but could potentially quash some of the rumours, I think that has to be considered very closely. Like not saying where the children were on May the 1st is an example. It doesn't harm the investigation at all to say where the children were on May the 1st. But yeah, you won't say.
In this case as well. What, though, would you say to the public who are begging for answers and just want to know what's happened here?
We have to be patient and certainly rely on our news releases and official sources of information. Don't listen to those rumors that are out there. We're putting out those news releases on a regular basis with information pertaining to the investigation. We have to be very cautious as to what type of information we release because we want to make sure that it doesn't affect the investigation.
I think some people in the public are starting to wonder, is it possible that we may never find out what happened to Lilly and Jack? Is that possible?
I wouldn't be able to answer you that question today, but I can tell you that our investigators are seasoned. They are committed. I've worked with some of them personally prior in my career, and I can tell you that they are committed investigators to this missing children's investigation.
All right. We don't get very much information there. I want to know why they've not employed cadaver dogs. That's my overarching gripe. I mean, not collecting surveillance video early on, not appealing for public to give them dash cam footage early on. That's annoying. That's, I think, a misstep, as I keep saying. But not employing cadaver dogs, that's another misstep. I don't understand why they haven't employed cadaver dogs. For those who say, yeah, they have, no, they haven't. The dogs that have been seen on photos from the searches, they're live scent trackers. They didn't get a scent anywhere other than on the driveway. But not employing cadaver dogs, if they believe those children are in those woods, why? Why have they not? Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.